Hi, today I compared the first edition and the second edition of the fantastic Ator Tarot. I had a little bit of a drama buying it. I thought I was buying the first edition and then I got a copy of the second edition. And the printers, drive-through cards, said it was my fault. I'd ordered it and they'd sent it. And then I wrote back and said, well, yes, but on the artist's page on your website, this deck is illustrated with pictures of the first edition, this lovely thing here, in this lovely format. But the cards that are now being printed and sent off are second edition, a completely different format, a completely different graphic solution. And weirdly enough, I don't like these at all. I think this is one of my favourite decks ever. And second edition, I don't like it at all. I'll talk about that later. The printers were quite nice about it in a way, and they refunded the cost of the cards, and now the artist has updated his page to show pictures of the second edition before you buy. Okay, so I'm not going to do a complete flip through of both these decks. You can see that elsewhere. This is about comparing the two decks. So there's the problem, ladies and gentlemen. The second edition is entirely different as a graphic design solution. I think we'll start off with an appreciation of the first deck so that you know why I'm so into it. Let's have a look at sort of half the deck. What you get is it's sort of comedy, but the thing about this designer Robin Ator is that he's not just comedy, he's extremely slick and chic as a designer. He also designed another tarot called the International Icon Tarot, where all the cards look like, you know, the sign to the toilet in the airport, and that's really, really good as well. I actually think this is better because it's not quite so stripped down, this one. It's got a bit more heart in it. So let's just flip through some of these. Now, this tarot is designed as a light tarot, and I've always been wanting a light tarot, you know, because tarot can be a bit heavy, and this one's light. It's kind of cute, and I'm not into cuteness. I'm not into kittens. I'm not into kids with huge eyes and so forth. I'm not into sugary things. This is, I suppose, broadly speaking, in the category of cute. But it's not so cute that I can't stand it. And it fulfills the brief, doesn't it, of being light. The other really nice thing about it is that the cards are this unusual shape. They are shorter and fatter than tarot cards. And what is great is that the figures are short and fat as well. You know, so it's a squashed tarot. It's like a hobbit tarot. It's got the elegance sort of squashed out of it, which I think is really lovely. I think that's what makes it great. And that is also why I have some rather severe things to say about the second edition, because that shape, that squatness has gone. While I'm going through these, I'd like to point out that this is a reinterpretation of the Rider-Waite-Smith. It's very close to the Rider-Waite-Smith. It has all the important details, so it's extremely readable while feeling extremely refreshing and different in style. Interestingly, it's based on the coloration, I think, largely of the Albano Waite. This one here, the recoloring by Frankie Albano in 1968. Here is, here's a US game system, very bad facsimile edition, which you can get quite cheaply these days. But if you look at it, you can see what Frankie Albano did back in the 60s with these cards. He added orange skies, he added this strange green colour, and the reprint is inky and nasty. The originals are much more delicate and much nicer, but you can see that it's a radical reimagining of the colours. Now, the Robin Ator Tarot is called the Ator Tarot, and the designer is called Robin Ator. I've noticed, interestingly, that he refers mainly to the Frankie Albano Tarot. For example, that's the classic Rider-Waite-Smith 10 of patterns. That's Frankie Albano, and that's the Ator. That's the classic 8 of swords. That's the Albano weight, and that's the Ator Tarot. Also, very interesting to note, look how he has, in a sense, degendered these cards. You know, that's not a tied up woman, that's just a tied up human being. And that's a feature of Robin Ator's work. He tends to make things fairly gender neutral when he can. And that sort of, I don't know, takes the pressure off somehow, doesn't it? Not all of the cards refer to the Frankie Albano. There's the classic 7 of Battens. There's the Albano weight, 7 of Battens. And there's the Ator Tarot, 7 of Battens. So you can see what's going on. He's kind of like, he's mixing and matching between the two. But given the fact that he's got just 2 sources, he is extremely sort of respectful of the sources. And that's what makes this tarot, the Ator Tarot, such a delight. Now, moving on to the controversial side, what I can tell you is that the first edition, this lovely thing of the Ator Tarot, is out of print. So if you go online and follow the links and click away, you will come across the second edition. And if you buy it, this is what you'll get in the post. And again, here's half the deck. Let's have a quick gander through it. The first thing we notice is that the format's different, okay? Like that. So this is standard tarot size, isn't it? There's no mystery about that. That's the size that tarot cards are. You know, the back has been redesigned, fine. But look, these are not only shorter, they're also wider. So they're shorter and fatter. And these are just longer. In fact, the central image is the same size. So these are just longer to fit into a conventional tarot shape. And my guess is that this was purely a practical decision, that the print-to-order company said, we only are offering these shapes. Clearly, you know, you can go into the world of printing and have any shape you want. So that was a decision, I guess, made by the artist, just for some reason of expediency. And this is why I don't like the second edition at all. In the first edition, you see it's sitting very comfortably, isn't it, in the shape of the card. You've got a nice border, it fits. In the second edition, the border doesn't fit. It's squished on, and there are even some cards, well, one card at least, where it seems to have it seems to be falling off the edge here. So I don't think that looks very nice at all. I don't think that looks, you know, for heaven's sake, Robin Ator is an extremely professional, up and running artist, and I'm kind of surprised that he would release that. Okay, so what's also happened here is that, you know, if you're going to print these tarot size, this is going to get smaller unless you shrink the whole picture, and then you're going to be left with this huge bit of white at the bottom. So the solution is to take the lettering out of here, out of the cartouche, I think it's called, and put it here. So all the major arcanas and aces and court cards have an empty cartouche and letters here. And the other thing that happens, ladies and gentlemen, is this. You know, let's have a look at some of these at half the pack. Very, very nice. As lovely as ever, the same vibrant colours. You may or may not like this new lettering. I tried hard to love it because I'm a huge fan of this deck, and I was staring at it and trying to love it, wondering what was wrong until I realised what had happened and how it had changed. You know, empty cartouche, huge white box with huge words at the bottom. And then what's going to happen is we're going to go into the minor arcana in a second. So here we have an ace, and aces, you know, traditionally have lettering on them, don't they? But minor arcana cards don't. They traditionally have a number here, you know, in the RWS, and then no lettering here. Here we go, you know? And in the first edition, that's the design, isn't it? That's the shape of the card. There's no need for writing on minor arcana, just pop in the number and we're fine. But what happens is that now all the minor arcana cards have lettering at the bottom, Because if they didn't, there would be a great big empty bit of white card, wouldn't there? Okay, so there they all are with lettering at the bottom. Now, what I want to say is that this makes it into a very, very different kind of deck because, you know, 20% of it, when you put it down on the table, is white with letters. If you had a reading with edition 1, you know, you might get, say you have a reading with edition 1. You have a major arcana card, 2 minors and a court card, okay? So there it all is. Bit of writing there, bit of writing there, no writing there, no writing there. So you have a reading with the second edition. You get this. You just get letters all over the place. You just get lots of white. You get lots of white with these big, relatively charming letters. I mean, they're charming enough for me, but you know, I just don't want to use this deck. I just don't want it. I just don't want to read with it, ladies and gentlemen. I just don't like it. And I think if you were unable to find a copy of the first edition of the Ator Tarot, for example, in eBay, what you could do is that you could buy the second edition, which, you know, it's print to order. It's not vastly expensive, but it's also not as cheap as a mass market deck. It'll cost you, I don't know, $50 by the time you've paid the postage. And then I suppose you could chop all these bottom bits off and just read without any lettering and then punch curves onto the corners. But then, you know, you would turn it over, wouldn't you? And that would be completely screwed up. So it would be a very desperate solution. I seriously considered doing that. If I hadn't found the eBay copy of the lovely first edition, I probably would have either thrown these away or guillotined the bottoms off them. So yeah, it's a funny old world, isn't it? Because, you know, how can it be that this tarot that I adore there turns into this tarot that, you know, it's fine, but actually I don't want it and I wouldn't read with it if you gave it to me for Christmas. Those were my thoughts on the lovely Ator Tarot. I'm Robert Farrer, this is Tea and Tara, and I'll be back next week with more of this stuff. Bye.